It comes as no surprise that one of the most eagerly awaited video game releases of the year is Battlefield 2042. The Battlefield franchise has become amazingly successful in recent years, thus the launch of a new title improved to match 2021 standards was expected to be met with great enthusiasm by the gaming world at large. However, in reality, the release of Battlefield 2042 has become a hugely contentious disaster, and if you've already played the game, you probably already know why. Early player criticism has hindered the adoption of Battlefield 2042, and it's honestly a little surprising to see such a well-known franchise receiving such unfavorable reviews. For instance, Battlefield 2042 is classed as mainly bad on Steam because only 34% of the almost 68,000 ratings are favorable. But how terrible is the upcoming Battlefield 2042? Together, let's try to determine the meaning of the game and the solution to this dilemma. Let's start by stating the obvious and saying that the graphics are generally quite decent. The degree of detail in the game's environments, weapons, and nearly everything else you see is remarkable, and on multiple times, I was slain by an adversary just because I was taking in the view. However, this is not necessarily unexpected. It's very obvious that DICE made an effort to make Battlefield 2042 feel more realistic, even though gamers are already aware that this goes beyond aesthetics. But if you play on a PC with all of the graphics settings set to high, you probably understand what I mean when I say that the new game gets it right in this area. There is also the gameplay, though. And this is when things start to go wrong. First and foremost, why are there so many bugs? While the development team is undoubtedly attempting to address these, there are times in Battlefield when bugs and subpar optimizations destroy the entire experience. Given the franchise's expanding fan base, such an experience shouldn't by any circumstances be made available from the start. Vehicles feel incredibly buggy, and in many cases, it's not a contest of talent anymore but rather of who has the unpolished gameplay down first. Aside from the issues, which will presumably be fixed sooner rather than later, Battlefield has a number of, shall we say, questionable alterations. Vehicles feel incredibly buggy, and in many cases, it's not a contest of talent anymore but rather of who has the unpolished gameplay down first. Apart from the problems, which should be resolved sooner rather than later, Battlefield has made a lot of, dare we say, dubious changes. There is little doubt that classes are a huge loss. Battlefield purists are upset since going for specialists and not putting enough emphasis on specialty is a bit of a letdown. Specialists was a notion that, in principle, would have given each character a distinct set of abilities, but in actuality, the way the idea has been applied to the game hardly makes a difference. Since everyone now has access to items like snipers, repair tools, C4, and rocket launchers, the specialty focus should theoretically be waning. The vehicles are incredibly overpowered, and it happens far too frequently that someone is killed by a helicopter. Helicopters are pretty much omnipresent in games, largely as a result of people abusing this negative adjustment in order to gain more kills. Sure, this is what the game is all about, but in the end, the gameplay as a whole relies more on how to take advantage of particular bugs than it does on actually experiencing the enchantment of fighting. Despite the fact that there are now 128 people, the maps still occasionally seem to be too big. However, snipers are far too effective, making it very simple to be killed if no one has your back. Another drawback is that it can be challenging to play alone because of how chaotic almost everything is as soon as the action begins. However, the havoc that Battlefield 2042 unleashes for each player is what makes the game entertaining. The new Battlefield manages to digitally replicate the horror of what war means at the end of the day. Even though the weaponry are unpolished, the vehicles are way too powerful, and the sniper guns are outrageously lethal. Running alongside your buddies when playing together is quite inspiring, and helping and reviving fallen enemies makes the combat feel more personal than it did previously. At some level, this is a welcome move because gaining simple kills is no longer as easy as it once was unless you're a camper and persist with the awful sniper weapon I mentioned earlier. However, I frequently felt like eliminating an adversary was more a matter of luck than a combination of synchronization, weapon efficiency, and accurate shooting because the game lacks the necessary refinement to place the focus on abilities. However, there is one aspect that is utterly endearing. A very simple method to enjoy Battlefield in all its splendor is to use the Battlefield portal, which enables gamers to create their own adventures based on the weapons, maps, and classes of Battlefield 1942, Battlefield 3, and Bad Company 2. All of this without having to deal with the majority of the issues listed above, especially if you've been playing the game for a while and are aware of what Battlefield is meant to be.